Everyone is here and up and running. So bear with me for just a second. Let me make sure that I can see all of you guys. Make sure to say hello. I see everybody saying hello over on the Facebook stream, which is great. Let me know if chatting is going on over on YouTube. You guys are usually pretty chatty, and I don't see any chat over there quite yet. So if you are up and running over there, you guys say hello so I can see that. Let me just finish up here and make sure. Yep, there we go. I see that chat over there. Perfect. Alrighty, so let's get this show on the road in 3, 2, and 1. There we are. Hey everybody. Great. I see that Geeta is over on the YouTube feed. Over on the Facebook feed. She is moderating as beadshop.com over there, and then Drea is over on our YouTube stream doing some moderating over there. So thank you both for doing that, and everybody else for being here. So yes, we've got a lot to cover on this Free Tip Friday. First, I wanted to give a big shout out. You can see I've got some pretty flowers sitting here next to me. Those are from, as I like to call her, my Canadian soul sister, Michelle. Thank you so much for these, and we love them. They're brightening up the office. I'm not bringing them home because Alfred loves flowers, and so Chris can no longer get flowers from me. He used to buy me flowers all the time from the farmer's market, but nope. No more. So thank you so much. They really brighten this up at the office. And so since Alfred isn't coming to the office so much right now, they're safe over here. So thank you again for thinking of us. We love them. So thank you. Michelle, I just saw you jump right on. So thank you again. They really brightened our day for sure. Well, today is going to be all about the brick stitch. And we've got some new findings that you may have seen. Let me put them over here so you guys can see them right up on the screen there. There we go. That looks not too shabby. So we've got some new findings from TierraCast that launched this past Tuesday, and you guys have seen them, saw them in the newsletter, and if you're part of our bead shop group, you saw me working on an earring with them. So I'm going to share some of my brick stitch thoughts with you. But the new pieces that we've gotten, there are these drops right here, and you can see the drop. I'm going to measure it for you so you guys can see, though I know that the measurements are included in the description there. But you can see if I'm using the calipers correctly, which I think I am. There we go. They're just a little bit longer than 26 millimeters, maybe 26.5 millimeters there. And then this wide, kind of the bottom part of this one, it's about 16.5 millimeters. If we were looking at that in inches, it's just slightly over an inch there by about 3/4 of an inch wide at the widest point at the bottom. Now we also have these round ones here, which I love them. And that loop, the round loop, is about 18 millimeters, but with that top connector, it's almost 24 millimeters in length there that you can see. And they come in the different finishes here, silver, the silver, the brass, the gold, well, it's rhodium is the plating, rhodium plating. Antique brass, bright gold plate, and then the copper plate there. And both styles come in. We also have gotten what we call the puffy rondelle. That is also in, and it comes in all of the flavors. And then these little daggers as well, which I love. And Drew was asking me yesterday if the dagger fits inside of the teardrop, and it does. You would have to wire wrap it to make it connect, since the holes are going one way on the dagger, and then there's a front facing hole on the drop. So you could wire wrap that very easily and it would look nice and attractive. But the daggers you can use in a lot of different ways. They're fun. I also thought I would pull out the other kind of similar components, and you're going to see some of them in the samples that I have to share with you today from the archive, pulling out some of the samples from the archive. We've got these hoops from Nun Design, which I love so much. The large, the medium, and the mini. Okay, and then you'll see the Mambo earring that I've done. That was a pretty popular one. That's when I used the medium and the mini there. We also carry these thin teardrop hoops, round and teardrop, and you can see if I put these two next to one another, the difference in the size. And this would also be perfect for brick stitching around. You can also wire wrap with beads around these. There's all kinds of stuff that you could do with them. So this is kind of the array of things that I think work really, really nicely with our brick stitch. So let me go over here to this setup that I've got, and we're going to take a quick walk down memory lane with some of these, and then we're going to get started, and I'm going to show you how easy brick stitch is. Emily started this brick stitch craze over here at beadshop.com, right? And she started it with this lantern earring. Let me get a little tighter so you guys can see it, and then I'll move things around. You guys will remember that lantern earring here, and I just love this piece. You can go back and you can look at the Bead Shop Live that Emily and I did with it. We no longer carry these small melons, these 3mm melons, but you can sub with just a 3mm fire polish or whatever it is that you have that's about that size. Even the little shadow I think will work on these. But she used the bugle beads here, some 2mm fire polish, the 11/aughts, the cubes, which I think are really killer. You could also really size this down and use the 1.8mm cubes instead, and be a little bit smaller. You can really, once you understand how this brick stitch thing goes together, the sky is really the limit on this. And I love the two color palettes that Emily chose. I love this kind of sand colored one with the pops of the yellow, and then this terracotta and patina iris one I think is really gorgeous. And then Emily went for kind of a Missoni look, right? We're familiar with the designer Missoni. If you're not, get familiar, the Bargello. Kind of they're known for the kind of Bargello colors, but this has Bargello meaning kind of that blend in a chevron kind of a pattern, which I love. I loved these, and they were a really cool piece, and a lot of you on the bead table in the Bead Shop Facebook group just went to town with these brick stitch earrings. So many really pretty ones there. And then the ones I have them in my ears that I'm wearing, I love them. I wear them all the time. They have the Aqua Celsian And then I think it's the 11-190. I think that's what I used for the 11-aught here. And this might be the 4481 or the 4479 or something like that, I think. That blue, that moody blue, I think it is, or it's the eucalyptus. One of them, I didn't look it up. But, you know, use a blue that you like. This also has the 5mm rondelle here in the antique silver, which I love. And you can see, of course, I put in, I think this is the 2mm hematite cornerless cube there. Let me get a little tighter. It's a little hard to see, but I feel super fancy pants whenever I wear these. I really love them. So there we go. I've got some more brick stitch in this style that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. One I made in kind of these great fall colors that I made last fall that I just could not finish the second one of. So I have them. So I'll be sharing those, and some of you saw them in the group when I was wearing them, but we're going to play around with more of this brick stitch. But brick stitch, really, you can't go wrong with the brick stitch. It's super easy. So I also did, so from this kind of design here, this kind of vertical brick stitch business I've got going on, we also used what we call the earring style that we've made. It's called the dancer earring, and a lot of you made these guys as well, and I love them. And that's when I use the medium and the small, the mini hoop from Nun Design, and I stitched around on the inside of the hoop. Oh, thanks, Drea. That blue that I used, it's 4481, the eucalyptus. I thought that may have been it. That's this blue in here. And you can see. And then it's the Aqua Celsian, I think, is the fire polish that I used. But, you know, you do you. You throw in your pop of color that works nicely. I know this 11-190 is one of Emily's favorite beads, so so it was fun to play with that. But these are called the Mambo earring, and again, it's brick stitch. It's the same thing. And I did a version of it with these guys. A lot of you are familiar with this one. This one's called Dragon Dance. Same thing, using the I Ching coin in the middle. And these I Ching coins that we carry are the real deal. And you can see these have some holes and stuff in them. They're really, really cool. And sometimes when you get your I Ching coin, the center holes might be a little bit larger, or even maybe a little bit smaller. It just depends, because they are old. But it's the same thing. It's the brick stitch, and I just did shadows, and then I used a 3mm. Again, I think I used that 4481 here. I think the Aqua Celsian would make a great choice for this bead here. I think this might be the turquoise bronze Picasso, or I think is what it is. If we're low on it, we'll get it back in. This color is kind of hard to find. They don't always stock it, so we get it back in periodically. So if we happen to be out of it, don't fret. Put yourself on the list and you'll get an email when it's back in stock. But I think this Aqua Celsian, or even this copper, would be a really good sub. That's the Aqua Celsian here. Also, I used in the earrings that I'm going to show you in a minute, I used the polychrome teal, which I think would also look great with it. So you do your colorway, but you can see I use the Simplicity chain. I think that's what this is here. And then that's when I attach this fancy pants to the end. I love this earring. I wear it a lot. I think if I do say so myself, kind of hit it out of the park with this one. I really, really love it. And you can see, as far as ear wires go, see here how, and I took this knot from Danielle Wicks. See how I used the wire guard? Can you see that? Maybe you can't. Let me tighten it in. The wire guard when we string our soft flex. See how that wire guard is there? It's just stitched on in, and that's what makes the loop, and that's what I connected this ear wire to here. You can see here with this one, I just stitched the oval jump ring in there, and that's how I attached the lever back. So either of those will work. On these cool components from Tierra Cast, this one has a loop, super easy to connect. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to connect this guy here, this teardrop one here. So let's take a look and see with the new components, okay? And it's not, Drea put, yes, we did a replacement. Okay, the metallic green turquoise Picasso, fabulous. I knew we did, this 3mm, and let me just say, and I know that you guys know this, right, already, because especially those of you who've been buying beads for a while, beads go in and out, especially these handmade glass beads. The fire polish is still made in the Czech Republic, still made by smaller factories, right? And so glass is kind of finite, and the colors and stuff and the batches that they do with the glass, that's all, it's not an infinite resource. So between batch to batch, especially if they have coatings on them or aftermarket coatings, they're going to look different. Okay, so if you see something on the web and you're like, oh my gosh, I love that color, I've got to have those. Pick up a couple of strands, you guys, to build your stash. These 3mm are not that expensive, but especially in the 3s, they're small. They're not made as fast or as readily as the 4mm or 6mm or 8mm fire polish. So toss them in your stash so you'll have them, right? And there's Danielle. Danielle, I was just extolling your virtues a moment ago with the use of that that wire guard. It's terribly, terribly clever of you. So let's take a look at the earring I made, a couple of them. And so, this color, as Drea was saying, it was discontinued. We just couldn't get it, not for love or money. So we had to make a sub, but it's okay. Things evolve, things change. You'll make your own colorway, right? So here is, you can see, this is the one that I embellished. I used the brass here, and here's just the brass one here, unadorned. So you can see how it really kind of grew in size. And kids, if you know me at all, and I think many of you do, I love a statement earring, a say something earring, right? So this is and after I finish it up, I'll put it on so you guys can see kind of the scale of it. But this is the one that I started. I thought that these just screamed brick stitch. Now, you could do anything with this. As I say, you can wire wrap some beads around there to embellish. You could just put this on a simple ear wire and just have like a swingy hoop, right? You don't have to do anything to it. But I pulled some beads for this. This is a fairly new color that we're carrying. It's kind of that periwinkle blue that just sends me over the edge. Janice used it in her hydrangea monthly mix for May. It's the 8-4242, so I used that. And as I said, I used the polychrome aqua teal in the 3mm for this. And then sometimes I feel this bead doesn't get enough love, but Emily used it, and I guess I kind of, maybe it was a subconscious thing. She used it in this earring here. It's the 2091. It's the dark matte silver or something like that. I love this bead, and it really mixes well with matte metallic khaki iris as well. So it's a good one. So I thought it was not quite silver. It wasn't quite brass. So I thought it worked out pretty well. And the question is, are they heavy? They're not that heavy, even though that these dangles, they're brass, but you could totally omit those and not have them. So they're thick, but they're not weighty. I think that those of you who have issues with wearing heavy earrings, especially if you embellish them maybe a little bit less, I don't think you're going to have an issue at all, right? This one, it's in the Getaway mix. Thanks, Tria. I don't know. I don't know my I don't know my mixes, I guess. But this one's in the Getaway mix for the mix for June. The 4242. adore. I love it so, so much. This color just sends me over. So let me show you also this one that I've started to work on. And I want to share a little bit of my process with you. I'm going to show you the basic of the brick stitch. Now, this, oh, I love that story. Kim is saying she had 3-inch pumps in that blue. Remember those days that we used to be able to wear pumps? My buddy Christine, my high school buddy Christine's also watching, and Christine and I would have a joke that when we were seniors in high school, we would dress like we were going to the office. We were so, I don't know, it was the 80s, it was 1984. Everyone wore a power suit, including all during your senior year. I don't know, so true. But no more pumps for these feet, kids. Doc Martens all the way, that's what I'm saying. Give me flat shoes, right? So this is the one that I'm working on, and I wanted to show you how the brick stitch went around this round piece too, okay? And I used some different beads. So let me show you here. I'm gonna get really tight so you can see them. This is a work in progress, this one, and I want to talk to you a little bit about how I'm gonna, because this is still in the design process. Let me move this mat over so you don't see that unsightly black. This is definitely a working mat, so it's not as pristine as it could be, but let's get that distracting black dot out of there. Okay, so let me show you what I used here. So the interior, this round, this is an 8/0, okay, and I did that same thing when I did these mambo earrings. This is also an 8/0 here. And the thread that I use, can you see on this mambo, I use the purple thread, and you can kind of see it, right? This one here, I think I used Pebble here, and it kind of blends right in. Diane, Doc Martens are the only shoes you wear. You and I are soul sisters too. I have my Doc Martens from the 80s through now. That was always my shoe of choice, right? Some of them are a little beat up, but you know, that's what punk rock's all about. Your beat up Doc Martens, right? Can you tell I'm hanging on to my early years? Anyway, so this is, back to the beads. Shoes are so distracting though. These are 8/0s here, going all the way around. All right, and so I started this row with just that single 8/0, and it actually looked pretty good. I mean, you could, again, if you don't dig a heavy earring, right, just brick stitch one bit of color around and you're good to go, right? You're done. So this one here though, with the ring, I used 11/0. And I don't know if you can tell, this is a delica, right? This is a rocal, a round, an 11/0 round. This is an 11/0 delica. And I like the kind of flatness, if that's the right word for it, that kind of radiates out from this. And then I thought, well, it was time to add the rounds, so I did here. But I didn't add any delicas on this one. So you can see the difference between the brick stitch, how the brick stitch looks flatter, and you can see in Emily's brick stitch earring that she did here with the delicas, how that all looks kind of flatter, and then when you string them down on the strands, they kind of displace each other because it's like a little tube, a hard edge tube, right? When you brick stitch, same gig, same stitch here, but see, it looks different in the rounds or the rocals that they're also known as, okay? A round seed bead, 11/0. So to start, I'm gonna show you how we start this brick stitch. Now, what I want you to, we've done this several times, so I'm gonna go over this, I'm gonna gloss over this sort of fast, but the episode notes on the mambo earring are where it's at for the directions on basic brick stitch around a round thing, okay? And so if you go fastest way to find that is if you go to beadshop.com, go to projects on the top bar, jump down to earrings, click on earrings. All of the earrings are going to come up, and on the second row you're going to see brick stitch tassel earrings, which you may want to download as well, but you're going to see the dancer earrings, and then you're going to see Mambo, and you're going to click on Mambo, and you're going to see a button that says episode notes, and the episode notes are what you're going to download. Andrea did an excellent job on outlining the step-by-step. Okay, so it looks, it'll be a great kind of, what do I want to say, safety net for you, a really great one to kind of follow along. I'll admit, when I started jumping in and doing this one, I'm like, wait a minute, how the heck did I start this? I couldn't remember. So what did I do? I downloaded the episode notes and it was all fine. So I got it. So to begin, we're going to use this drop, okay? And I'm just going to brick stitch around here this blue, okay? And it's the exact same thing for this purple as well, except we're doing 2 11/0 instead of 1 8/0 here. So I've been using the dark gray KO for this, and it really does kind of fade into the background on these beads. So just, but test it out. We've got KO in a lot of different colors, so you can decide what works for you. I'm gonna try not to pull out a huge length of thread so I don't struggle with it. To wax or not to wax, since I have my beeswax here, I will give it just a light little coating of beeswax, but again, that's kind of a personal choice. But if I have my beeswax sitting around, it's always a good idea to do it. And see how I've gone here, this, and this a couple of times, then it makes it nice and stiff, and I can get it through my needle. Now, the needle that I'm using is sitting here, there it is. You can use a size 10 beading needle. I think Emily used a size 12. That's her fave. My fave is a size 10 sharp, so that's what I've used for this. You use your needle, whatever works for you. Okay, but make sure it's a beading needle. Make sure that the eye of the needle isn't wider, right? That it goes through all of your beads there. But I'm going to use the size 10 sharp. Now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to go through whatever it is I'm stitching through. In this case it's the teardrop. I'm going to leave a tail of maybe that's 4 inches, 4.5, 5 inches there-ish. So I can come back in and weave the tail in later. But essentially what we do to start this brick stitch is I just come in and I tie it around using a square knot. There's 1 half hitch, left over right, and then we'll do this right over left, whoops, and get the thread caught, there we go, and down. Okay, so there it is, and it's tied on and it's ready to go. Now, when you begin the brick stitch, when you just start it around the hoop, it's different than every other time you do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to get those are 6/0. That's the wrong. I love this bead so much that I have them in 6 and 8s. Let's try this again. There we go. Let's get those 8/0 there. Okay, and I'm going to grab 2. I'm just going to ignore this thread, and I hope you guys can see. Let me get in just a hair tighter. Okay. So I'm going to grab 2, and I'm going to go around from the back and pull my thread so that my 2 little beads are sitting next to each other. Can you see that? Now I'm going to start and I'm going to go through, let's call this bead number 1. I'm going to go through bead number 1, stitch it in place, down through bead number 2, and you can either go in front or in back of the component, it doesn't matter. I'll go in back. Whoops, and what did I do? I pulled my needle out of my needle off my thread. Come on. I'm going to needle that thread, not thread that needle. There we go. That wax makes it a lot easier. There we go. And you want to pull it. You want to pull it so everything is tight, not overly tight so they fit funny. But see here how there's no thread. It's come from behind. So now I need to go up bead number 2. And now I'm ready to go. Okay, so I put on 2, but now I'm just going to put 1, okay, on. So I pick up one bead here. I bring it down. I go behind my component. So see how it falls right into place. And up through the bead. And up through the bead. There it is. Let me go a little wider so it's not such a close talker here. There we go. And as things start to fall into place, and even like with this weird, like this first one, it's sitting a little funny. When you come in and you weave this thread in, or when you get your second row in here, it's going to fix. So don't worry if it's wonky. All right. So let me just stitch a few here on here. I'm going to go a little faster at Kate's speed, but go behind. You can go in front or behind, but I think it's faster if I go behind the component and then just slide that sharps right up the top and then tighten. And what you're building here is, can you see that little thread bridge you're building? That's when we do our second round, our second row. Those are the thread bridges we're going to catch to do our brick stitch. Okay, so let's do this. And stitch. So you would continue to stitch all the way around. Okay, all the way around this piece until you were done. Easier said than done. There we go. Okay, but I'm going to pretend that we have gone all the way around. Okay, and then we're going to start, we'll start, I'm actually going to, I'm going to weave back here and bring my needle back to the starting position. And so we would have ended up, as the beads go all the way around this component, right? We would have ended up come on, with our needle at the end coming up through the last bead, right? So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come around, and through the magic of your imagination, we are going to pretend that this now is here, and we've gone all the way around with beads, and we've ended up here. Okay, so then I'll flip the component over, so I'm kind of starting in that same spot again. And now can you see, if I put this guy here, I put the these antique silver or matte silver ones in, right? And so remember our thread bridge, right? Remember our friend, the thread bridge that is going all along here? That's what we're going to use to catch all of our next stacks of brick stitch. So let me find that. that bead, put a few out. Now instead of doing just one, but we do the same thing essentially. Instead of picking up just one bead, now I'm going to pick up two. You could pick up just one if you wanted just one little row of color here, but I wanted two. So here's my two, right? I come in, I pick it up, and I go under the first thread bridge, right? And you're going to see a little bit of that, sorry, that's not right. I knew it was wrong because I was seeing that. And you know, Kate, take the needle off and take this out. There you go. Rewind that. Can we take that back? Can I have a second take here, please? There we go. Always to start. Remember how I put two to start a row? We need to put two sections on to start a row. That's why it looked funny to me. So I've got my two sections here. Can you see that? 4 beads. There are going to be 2 that sit side by side. And now I'm going to come down and I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go to this thread bridge. This thread bridge might be a little close, but maybe not. Maybe I want to go down that one. Let me see. There we go. And see how those 2 now, just like at the beginning, are sitting correctly. All right. And now with this needle, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to go up that second stack. There we go. And if it gets a little loose, that's okay, because you're gonna, when you come in, it's gonna all sit nicely. There we go. And now you're just gonna put them on 2 by 2. Okay, so let me get 2 more here, 1 and 2. Now, there's the thread bridge right here. And sometimes you go under the same thread bridge like twice sometimes, right? Just depending on the size of the beads and the space you need. And, you know, like these 8/0 are a lot bigger than these 11/0. So if I go through and I put this in, see, it's just going up the bridge, not going through the bead. But now it looks like I'm going under each of these thread bridges here. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to put on 2 more 11/0, 1 and 2, underneath the bridge and back up through the stack. Okay. And as you go along, you're just creating another little row of brick stitch. Now if you need, you kind of need to be careful if like you're testing things out and stuff. It's easy, at least it's easy for me to do. I found this when I was making this. So see how this thread bridge over here, it's giving me a little too much of a gap right here. So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to put the thread bridge, I'm going to put the beads under this thread bridge over here. So you kind of have to look when you're really changing sizes from this 8/0 to the 11/0. Now you also need to be careful when you're stitching under the thread bridge that you don't split the thread bridge with your needle, right? You want to make sure that you're going underneath. So sometimes what I do is I go at the bottom and then I kind of pull my needle up so I know that I haven't caught any of the thread in there. So it'll, so I want to take this out. I want to take this out, but I don't want to snarl my thread. So take your needle off, pull everything out. Let's go back and rethread the needle. Again, in Emily's words, we're going to needle the thread. So I press the eye of the needle down on the tip of the thread there. And I'm going to go under this thread bridge. And there you can see it fills in a lot nicer. But it'll all straighten out. Like anything, stitching can be a little fussy, especially stitching a little bit out of my focal range so you guys can see. There we go. And there we go. Now I'll go under that next one. Okay, I'm going to do this a little bit faster here so I can finish off this row pretty quickly. Not the whole row, but get to the end of where my blue ones are. And then I'll show you how I continued with, I think the next row what I used were the 3mm. And it's pretty easy. It's the same as the Mambo earring, really, except I'm just going around a different shape. But brick stitch is pretty easy. So now I can see here where I'm putting my needle, there's the next thread bridge. It's going to give me too big of a gap, so I need to go under the same thread bridge again. And as you're making these, you will, the more experience you have, the better you'll get at judging where you need to brick stitch it. Okay, so now let's pretend, I'm also going to show you, let's say I've run out of thread. Okay, let's just put this aside, okay, for a second. Let me make the frame a little bit bigger. All right, there we go. So now what I'm going to do is with this tail, let me weave it in first to get it out of the way. Okay, so I'm just going to come in so once I have some beads here, I can come in and I can just go like maybe up this periwinkle one and maybe up one of the silver ones and then pop over to the silver one next to it. And again, you want everything to be nice and firm, but not so tight that you can't kind of move your beadwork around a little bit. I'll come out of that top bead since it wants to go that way. Then I'll turn the corner and go down here. And I think that's probably enough. I've woven it in, and so I'm going to get my thread snips and just under tension pull that, cut that and pull that away. Now let's say that I've run out of thread, though I haven't, but let's put some thread so it starts back up here at the beginning, because that's where you can see I'm right here in the earring. I'm right here. Okay, so let me cut another length of thread. And when I'm adding thread, I need to kind of think ahead to where my needle needs to come out at the end to continue my stitching pattern. So I know that my needle's going to need to come out right here. Okay, so I'm going to start back here, weave, 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 and exit with my strand, with my needle there. So let me needle thread that up. Get that needle out of the way. And I'll just come in here, maybe poke it through the center of one of those beads, and then back down, leaving a tail so I can weave the other side in too. For those of you who are knitters, you know that weaving in ends is a necessary evil, but it's the same thing with the seed bead work. You kind of have to bury those ends so they don't come out. There we go. You see how I've made a total square there? So I'm just going to weave this back through kind of quickly. But as long as you have one or two turns in your work, the thread isn't going to pull out. And we'll go down here, and then we'll come up here. Now we're ready for our next row. Again, we're pretending everything is here on this. Though you could slide this down, you could just do brick stitch on the bottom, right? Does this want to slide? See if I can kind of slide it. But can you see how effective that would look at the bottom here? And just do it that way and nothing on the sides. That would look pretty good too. But let me slide it back up, and because we'll work on the pattern we're working on. Don't get ahead of yourself, Richburg. Just relax here. So now the way that I've incorporated this 3mm is the same way I've done it, similar to the way I did it on the Mambo earring. The Mambo earring, I had it standing up. I just did it single here. On this one, I had it laying down. So what I did was I put on one, let me open these guys up. Let me put on one 11/0, one 3mm, and one 11/0. Then I lay them down, and I lay them across, and I kind of look at the thread bridge that's close to where, you know, that length is. It's actually this one here. So I'll go through. Okay, see how those are on? Now I'm going to come up through this bad boy right here, and I don't need to add another 11/0 because that's the last 11/0 in this grouping is the first 11/0 in the next grouping. I have so much, you know what I'm going to do, because this is going to be redone anyway. I'm going to cut that thread out of there because I should bury it really, but instead I'm just going to cut it so it's not, visually it's not in your way. So remember this, the last bead of this grouping is the first bead of the next grouping. So I'm just going to come in, get my 3mm, get my 11/0. I slide them down and take a look at which thread bridge it goes under. Looks like it lines up with this one. So now see how these are sitting? Nice, right? So I'll go through this one, up through that, just like regular brick stitch. Put on your 3 and your 11, and I can kind of guesstimate now which thread bridge it's going to go under. Okay, and you'll continue that all the way around your earring. Okay, and you can stop at any point, right, with the embellishing. What I did, and you can see how this compares. See that row right there? That's this row here. And I could have stopped. I thought, well, you know what? I kind of like the way these look around the edge, right? But yeah, more is better, I guess, when it came to this. I went through, I couldn't help myself, and I added a picot. So I added one more row. So what I did was I started it. It looked kind of funny. See how this is kind of tapering a little bit here? So it looked kind of funny to start that first picot. There wasn't a whole lot of room here, so I had to start it here with this one. So I went through and I picoted, and as I came around, and I'll show you how I did that, but I would add that 3 picot, 3, 3, 3, and then when I got here, the picot instead became, no, that's not true. As I went around here and added my 3/0, see here, instead of adding a 3/0, not a 3/0, a 3mm here, I added the dagger instead. Does that make sense? So I'm So that's how I incorporated these guys in, right? So instead of the 3mm, it was the dagger instead. And then these little picots were just 4 on that side and 4 on that side. Okay, so I'm gonna just show you, I'll weave back through. So let me weave down, let me get back to a starting point here. These bead holes are kind of getting full of thread, but that's okay. This is the demo one. Maybe I'll hop down here. There we go. And here, nope, doesn't want to go through there. So let's take it a different path. Let's go through here. And this is where I would come up anyway. No, I actually want to go through that blue, so I'm lying to you. So let me go through here. And now I'm going to stitch through here. And it's no big deal. Just move your needle and your thread to where you need it to be, right? In your piece. That's okay. Doesn't matter, right? You can go anywhere. It's not a straight, brick stitch is not a straight line, even though it looks like little stacks of bricks, right? You can go anywhere in the pattern you need to go. Just go, right? Just go there. So what I did here was I used an 11/0. I used the 8/0 for the picot because I wanted it to be a little bit bigger and stand out a little bit. So I did that. And then I just came through, see how I'm coming out this 3mm? I put my 3 beads on, and then I went through the next 3mm and just make sure that they sit nicely stitched in as a picot. There they go. Okay, so same thing here. Picot goes here. A picot meaning it's a stack of 3 little beads that make a little flourish on the end. Okay, and that'll go right here. And I continued around until I had 4 of them. But if you look and see, if I moved all of this around to the bottom, since I can move it, look at, if I hadn't put this extra bead over here, right, and made this brick stitching kind of even, look how great that looks just on the bottom like that, right? That doesn't look bad at all. Then you could stitch in a dagger right there if you wanted. And the brio. Completely different, right? But same thing, right? So just your brick stitch journey is, you know, I could come back in and I could, you know, I could fortify this up here and I could add one more row right here so I wouldn't have to take this away. It would make it actually a little bit wider and I think it would actually look pretty good. I could put in, I could stitch another 3mm right there if I wanted to kind of make that transition a little bit more elegant, right there. Or I could stitch in a drop right there, right? So it's really all it'll all work. Just and don't fret about cutting this up, right? This didn't take me very long to do. And if it starts looking wonky and you're like, oh, it's not, I don't like it, it's not working, who cares? Just cut it up or put it aside and start on your second component, right? Because had I done this, I think I almost, of course, isn't that how it always goes? I almost like this kind of bottom embellishment almost better than I like this giant one. But you know, whatever. Whatever works. I'm going to finish this up because I'm committed to it and I want you guys to see how it looks. I want to pull this in though before I get here, and I don't have a whole lot of time left with you guys today, but I wanted to show you guys this one here going through the round. Okay, and I just continued my rounds going around, going around, going around. And this one has fringe. And I used, this is the 5mm, I think it's stone bronze rondelle. I used the 3mm copper here. I've also pulled this 8/0, the 8/0 in the 4204F. I think it's the matte champagne, right? And so I've been playing around, and you can see there's the picot, and I use the 11/0 copper seed bead here. When I'm making the dangles on a piece like this, it's the same thing as the dangles here. I added my thread and I wove in, and I started in the center, so I established the center here, right? And I'm going to go up one side and then I'll go up the other, and I'll just kind of play it by ear to see how this fringe looks, right? I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to love it. But I think I'm going to love it. I don't know. I just have to play around with it. But you can, before you stitch, because it's kind of hard, I was actually going to take this fringe leg out because I noticed I didn't add any of the purple. Well, it's kind of hard to, it was really hard to pull this out, so I'm just going to add purple into the ones that are on the sides, and the center one won't have any, whatever. Or I can just clip it, take it out, and reweave my thread in to the starting point. But what you can do if you're not sure how you want your piece to look, you know, if you're not sure about the dangles, what I do is I use head pins, and you can get head pins and you can make your little dangles on the pins, right, and line them up, because I kind of want this to kind of taper up a little bit here. So this will allow me to see what my bead counts look like, what all of the different beads together look like, without actually having to string them on the dangles and maybe damaging your thread. Once you've decided, like even if you decide like what one side looks like see, you can just kind of start to say, okay, I want these to sit about right there. And so I'll get my, I also want this copper one to be up there as well. So you can kind of play around with the spacing and everything. Does that make sense? And then make all of your dangles here on your head pins and then stitch them on. Essentially what you're doing when you stitch on a dangle is you travel your thread. Travel, 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 travel until it comes out where you want it to go, and then you go up, and then you can see I'm right here. I've gone up through this bead and this bead. I'm going to come back down this bead next to it and do my next tassel. Go back up, travel through this bead here, and go down this one and do my tassel. Okay, and for more on tasseling, it's the same way that Emily did the tassels on both of her brick stitch components. Okay, and this is the Tiara Hishi. It's not an O bead, but an O bead would look amazing on this too. Okay, either way. And Donna, real quick, or Danielle asked real quick over there, and I want to make sure that everybody on the Facebook page sees this as well. She asked about needles. Can she use a needle with a collapsible eye? I would say that you need a rigid needle for this. A lot of times I go back and forth, and I use a collapsible eye needle sometimes for seed beading, right? But for this one, you need a rigid needle. You'll just be tearing your hair out with the collapsible eye. So I'd go ahead and get the size 10 beading needles or the size 10 sharps. And you can see the difference. I think I've got a beading needle here. Here's the beading needle. You can see the length there, and you can see the length of the sharp there. So they're just different lengths. And so I like this short one, but some people like the long one. Whatever works for you guys. Okay, so I hope that's fairly clear. Let me show you again, just real quick with this guy, how I would add that briolette. We have some skill builders on wire wrapping the briolette, and this component would look amaze just with a briolette dangling in the center, right? You don't have to have all of this brick stitch madness around it. Just hang a brio and call it a day, right? It'll look great. But I'm going to use a 26 gauge in the antique bronze here. And you can watch our skill builders that will share some technique on doing the briolette wrap. Our briolettes that we carry here at beadshop.com are a pretty high quality gemstone. They are expensive. Well, not in the grand scheme of things. They're not $1 million, but they're beautiful stones. So, and the holes, the way that they're drilled, regardless of which briolettes you are using, you want to make sure that the hole is drilled down not right next to the tip, because that will break off if you are using wire that's too heavy of a gauge. So my wire of choice here is 26 gauge, and I'm just going through. I make sure that there's movement, because remember, wire isn't like thread, it's rigid, right? So I want to get that in there. I want to get that little loop I've made right inside this loop. There we go. And it's a little fussy, so you kind of have to line up all of your wires and get your briolette wrapping wire in there. There we go. And now I'm going to come in. Sometimes it's almost easier to do it with your fingers, but I'm going to isolate, try and get this briolette out from the middle here of my piece. And that's why I have kind of a long piece here, is that with my fingers I can just hopefully nimbly, this wire is pretty malleable because again it's a 26 gauge. So see how I'm bringing it? Let me get a little closer to you. It's hard to see, my fat fingers are in the way, but you can kind of make a little space there, right? And you can just ease that wire. This is where you zone out, you zen. You breathe in, you breathe out. You are definitely the boss of the wire here. And again, just using my hands so I'm not cracking anything with my tools. And just get it one little wrap over the other. Now I'm going to cut away this extra wire, being very careful not to nick any of the other wires or my brio. Right, I get it right in there, get the tip right. Being very careful also not to hit myself in the head with that piece of flying wire, and then cut this one away. I think that's the right one, I hope so. Now I'm gonna, with my bent chain nose, let me get them. Let me get kind of close here. I'm gonna just gently curve that little tip of the wire there that's kind of sticking out, and this little bit here. And you want to make sure that the loop that you've made is large enough so that there's just enough movement so this isn't stiff. Okay, I'm going to place it here in my hand so you can see it. Okay, can you see that wrap there? I think that's a pretty neat job. All right, and you could, Sandy's asking, could you wire up the briolette and then attach it with a jump ring? You sure could. Though, you would have to make that wire wrap on your briolette real short Sandy, because even though this looks like a lot of space, I don't think you want this briolet to hit too far down. So practice, you may want to practice on, or maybe do the briolet first before you do all this brick stitching, but the briolet might get in the way of your threads. It takes a little bit of practice, but practice, if you have any of our check drops, practice with the check drops first before, or a different drop bead that has a hole going horizontally. That way you'll get your hands limber and you'll be ready. You know, you'll have some confidence as you do this wire wrapping. But again, I just did the loop just like I do a regular briolet wrap. Come up, bring your wires together around, and then wrap all of those strands, and then kind of pull them out a little bit. So you're wrapping here at the side. You'll be able to see a little bit better with what you're doing. But see, this briolet, again, it has some movement here, so I think that's important. Then we're just going to add our top portion. Now, I haven't played around with this at all, actually, so I'm going to use my little spacer, and I was thinking in my head I would use the this A-dot on both sides. It might bring the blue up kind of nicely, and I'm going to use an eye pin, and I think that eye pin will fit in here, I think. So let me just, if not, I could enlarge this eye pin loop, or I could connect it with a jump ring, but let me just go ahead and make this eye pin component here. I could also just simply connect my ear wire. Here we go. I could use a couple of jump rings to do that. Okay, but I thought, let me see how it might look with this component. It might not look right. It might be all wrong, but that's okay. It's just a little eye pin. We can take it apart. Up and over, if you remember from the Wire Olympics, up and over the top, right? And that's the worst loop I've ever made. Let me straighten this out a little bit here. There we go. Oh, so poor skills. Come on now. It's because I'm trying to hurry. Get into your happy bead place there. Let me get a little closer to my eyes. Let me fix this mess here. There we go. That looks better. Now I'm going to open this up, lift, connect it to whatever ear wire you like. These kind of maybe have a vintage feel to them, and they're kind of big, so I like the lever back, but you can use whatever you like here. Let me open this up, and let's hope it fits. And lo and behold, by Jove, it does fit. And we want to make sure, so this is something you want to also look at. See how I made my loops just out of habit, how they're in the same plane here, right? This is right here, it needs to connect here, but if the loop is going the same way, the earring is, the ear wire isn't seated in the right position, right? So I need to actually move, and I should have done this right at the onset, but I'll move it over so you actually see the loop. And I would redo this because that's a little mangled, but it's not. It's fine for demonstration purposes. We want to make sure it's nice and straight so that the earring will lay correctly. Okay, so see, now the ear wire is in the right position. So let me put this on my ear. Let me get up close and personal with you here. I'm going to go ahead and, which ear? This one, I think. Let me scoot over. And so it's not hard to see on me, really. Let me try the other ear. The other ear is in the light. There we go. Not too bad, I think. Especially for one who likes big earrings, right? It's a good one. So that's it. So these And I'll hold this in my hand one more time, or at least put it down so you guys can see kind of the last looks of this. I'll work on this other one so you guys will be able to see that too, but let me go back over here so you can have kind of some final ideas. Take your screenshots here, and I'll take some photos for Drea to add into the blog. This is all over the Free Tip Fridays. They land a lot of times on the blog because these just kind of evolve. They're a string of consciousness for sure. And then eventually they get migrated over to the website as full-fledged projects. So, but the blog has all of the ingredients listed. I'm going to do this, so when Drea texts me after the show, she'll say, "Where is my photo?" There's your photo right there, Drea. And we'll urge you to have some fun with it. As I said, go to our brick stitch projects that we already have on tap. I'm going to put my Mambo earrings in because I love them so. And download the episode notes, and you guys will, there's a wealth of learning information there. There we go. Let me scoot over so there we go, and maybe smile so I don't look so serious. There we are. This technique, as you can see, just starting it, very simple, and just go as far as you want with the technique. I can't wait to see what you make. So if you hop on over to Facebook and search the bead table, and you'll see the group come up. You'll answer a few questions, and we would love to have you join over there. It's really an awesome, awesome, awesome place. Also, I want to thank you for shopping our store at beadshop.com. Because of your support, it lets us continue to do what we do with our small business, right? We really, really, really appreciate it. So you can find all of the project and the products from this broadcast over on beadshop.com. And kids, I'm telling you, sign up for your newsletter, because if you jumped in to your newsletter this morning, I am looking for mine as we speak. You can see today is the 12th, June 12th, Friday, June 12th. I don't know how it got to be almost the middle of June already, but it did. So if you join our newsletter, you'll see right here, I'm going to put it here, you'll see project code, and I'm going to share this coupon code with you guys. Since it's almost summer, we're having our almost summer sale, and so you can take 20% off everything store-wide with no minimum this weekend. You can use coupon code almost20 at checkout, and it will knock 20% off of everything in your cart. So we super, 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 super appreciate your support. I cannot emphasize that enough. Also, like and share this broadcast. That helps other beaders who may be interested in making brick stitch earrings find us, so we appreciate that support as well. Next week, I'm going to be here on Wednesday for Bead Shop Live, our regular Wednesday broadcast, with a project from Bead Table member Kim. If you liked kind of this stitching business, I think you're going to love these necklaces that Kim, we've been tossing around putting this project up for so long, and I'm so excited that it's finally coming to fruition. So watch your newsletters for that project, and I will be here on Wednesday to share it with you, to demo it with you. Again, have a fantastic weekend, everybody. I know we're still going through some issues, some the world's still a crazy place, so be careful. Be safe, wash those hands, stay the course. We've got this. So have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Again, all thanks from me and everyone here at beadshop.com, and I will see you on Wednesday. Thanks so much.